was very much looking forward to hanging out with you. So, yeah,
Always hanging out with you.
I'm so glad that you're here with me. So, Jenni Walke is the owner and founder of Elephant in the Room Consulting. So, let's find out a little bit about what Jenni does. So, Jenni, tell us how you got into business and how long have you been going?
I'm really excited to be here. Actually, these are questions that I so often answer, and then now you've asked me, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've been in business 4 years and 1 month, actually. My anniversary is my official company starting date was the 3rd of August, 2017. And I always like to remember that date because it's actually a really important date, I think, in any business's journey when they officially become a company or start work. But I started work because I realized, and I said this before, that I was working in a job that I absolutely loved. I was a sales director for a company. I'd been doing psychometric testing and solution selling, basically selling those horrible tests that people go, oh, don't make those tests when you go into recruitment or talent programs or things like that. Anyway, I'm a bit nervous tonight, strangely. And so I was selling this work and I loved it. And I just enjoyed it. I loved having conversations with people and I loved talking about their problems and their challenges in their workplace, particularly around people and talent development and how to make the most out of people. And I loved it so much that I didn't actually notice that the job was not loving me back as much as I was loving it. And you go through that kind of slow creep of everything's amazing, everything doesn't feel quite so amazing, everything isn't amazing, oh my God, everything is really not amazing. So I went through that whole journey and I found myself kind of in limbo, not knowing what I was doing. And I ended up in Barcelona. I decided I was unwell for a while because I'd kind of just let myself get run down and completely exhausted and I needed a break. So I went to Barcelona and sitting in a cafe on a Friday night, it's called the Hideout Cafe, which I think is hysterical that it's the Hideout Cafe. Myself and 4 new friends were sitting around talking about what we were going to do when we went back to the real world. And I was like, I don't have a job. I don't want to go back to that job. It's not healthy for me. What am I going to do? And we discussed my business and we discussed what I might be doing. And Elephant in the Room was born in that cafe on a Friday evening in June, July in 2017. And from that moment, I knew I'd made the right decision to be in business. I had everything just felt right. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no idea how I was going to get clients, but I just knew that this was the path for me and this is what I needed to do. And so from that point on, everything has been about building and growing the business, finding my niche, finding what I do, and falling back in love with the work that I do.
Had you always wanted to be your own boss? Or had that not even really crossed your mind before?
It had never really crossed my mind. I just really liked working and helping other businesses grow. And I think that's kind of testimony to what I do now. It's what I do now is not about what the work that I do or the coaching that I do. It's actually about helping other people create impact and create sustainable businesses. And that's what I love to do. And I just found joy in helping other people, whether it was developing a leadership program or developing a recruitment program or a graduate program or just helping someone understand themselves a little bit better. I enjoyed doing that. And I had never really thought about doing it for myself. So no, that was really the first kind of moment of going, wow, there's a different way of working and a different way of, living in this world.
Wow, love that. I love that. For me, I'm the opposite, for example, because I always knew I had to be my own boss. Yeah. I did have many jobs for other people in my 20s, and then I just knew, have to be my own boss.
It's a really interesting story. When I think about it, though, I think I was following a path that someone had suggested was the right thing to do. And I think that's kind of a lot of the kind of my ethos and philosophy now of following something that's right for you, not something that somebody else may have planned for you or that seems to be the right way of working. Mm-hmm. And so I joined the military. I went to university. I joined the military. I got out of the military and had, a range of jobs in projects and government and not-for-profits and in commercial. And I was following that path to become, the head of sales or a sales director, looking at solutions and helping companies do things better. And that was this path. It was like, that's what you should do. You get a job and then it's about the next job and then it's about the increased salary and then it's about the next title. And I just kind of realized I'd been on this rabbit wheel of somebody else's plan. And I think that for me was a lot of us feel like that. A lot of us end up on a plan or a path because it's put in front of us and you never think to question it because it seems like it's going well. And then you go, oh, this is actually not my plan. Maybe I wasn't put on this earth for this. what else is there?
Gosh, that's so interesting. And this morning I put a post up in the Facebook group that said, was there a teacher that was instrumental in your journey at some point? And I answered it myself, because I was like, oh, I had forgotten about my fourth form teacher, who happened to say, I just think your writing's amazing. You have a real gift for it. And it sent me on a new path. And without that one teacher saying that, it would be quite fascinating to think who knows.
Yeah.
But isn't that interesting that you just said it's about you are on somebody else's path, or that somebody else had that path where it wasn't your path? So I find that amazing, the different things that happen along the way that help us to take these steps and make this.
I think it's about your environment. I mean, it's that nurture nature, isn't it? I had, my parents were incredibly hard workers, and my mother is still at 77, retiring, and she's been doing that for the last 17 years. And I'll be retiring soon. I just need to find someone to do what I've been doing for 25 years, which is never going to happen. And that's just because it's part of our blood to just keep working and keep persisting and have that kind of, you just keep working. And when something changes and you move to the next job, you don't look back, you just keep moving forward. So there was always this momentum in what I did. And there was never really a time to stop and say, well, is there a different way of doing this? And I think, and it's not because I should say, actually, there was one point in time I was going to run my own company. It was when I thought my life would be running a martial arts club when I was about 19. And someone said to me, do you want to run my martial arts clubs? And I was like, well, that sounds like a cool thing. That might be something that I wanted to do. And that was the only time I think that I thought I'd run my own business outside, 30 years later.
Well, and so when in Barcelona, when Elephant in the Room was birthed, how did you come up with the name Elephant in the Room Consulting?
This is I guess it's a funny story. It was a conversation about what I did. I had a whole lot of other words in my mind because I really wanted to form cultures. For me, it's about helping companies form the right shape and structure and ideal of who they are. So it's essentially birthing someone's culture. So I had words like culturescape, which I do love still on some level. And it was about this idea of helping people create. And when we kind of unpacked the actual things that I was good at or that I kind of found joy in, what it was uncovering that one thing or identifying and naming the thing that people know exists but can't quite put their finger on it. And to me, that's always the elephant in the room. It's, there's something wrong, or there's a different way of working or something that you should do, but you either can't language it, or you're too scared to, or it's too hard. And so it just became, well, that's actually what I do. I uncover that for businesses. I help untangle that mess and unearth some of those things so they get clarity in their business and their purpose. And so that just became the name, and we Googled it then and it was available, and I bought the business name then and there. And then we kind of thought, damn, it's going to be a long URL. So, we had that conversation of how long the business name was and how we would present it. But it's still, for me, it's exactly who I am. But it also comes from this model, and I don't know if I've told you this story. I think you probably have. We've had so many stories. My logo being an elephant, it's an origami elephant. And that comes from my background of being, I guess, in people and training and learning and development. And the origami elephant is, I guess, my metaphor or my ethos around leadership, around us all being, a piece of paper of different shapes and sizes and colors and thicknesses, and we fold ourselves in and out of shapes our entire life. And so as we do that, we can choose to be like the perfect crane, and all the creases are immaculate, and we show up with perfection every time because we feel like that's who we should be. And I've been through that time, having to wear power suits and 10-inch heels and going, this is how you show up. And then sometimes you realize, and there's a point where you go, those creases are my story and my journey and who I am. And I found this amazing image of an elephant made out of crumpled paper, then folded into an origami elephant. And that idea of showing your creases and showing your journey led directly to my two core tenets, which is to be wise and to be free. And to do those two things, I have to own my past, own my mistakes, own my wins, and share those. And so that's how kind of the name lent itself as well, because of that kind of ethos of who I wanted to be.
Oh, you blow my mind. You really do. And I just need to mention to those listening that part of you touched on it just a little earlier, but you talked about untangling the mess of business. And I know that's sort of part of your slogan or tagline or whatever you want, but also one of your coaching programs is called The Messy Middle. So I love how the whole story just evolves and it's all part of something bigger. And so that story about how you got that name is amazing, but then also all about the untangling and the messy bits and all of that. It's so real. It's so authentic.
And I think that's what's really important for me as a consultant who's trying to build a business around what I like to see in the world and how I believe businesses should operate and should engage with their clients and engage with their community. And for me, that's about being true and owning up to your whole self. And so often we see businesses who look shiny on the outside, but then you look behind the door and they're a mess. And they're so afraid to tell people that they're struggling, they struggle themselves into the ground. And so it's about being okay to say, you know what, it's okay to have a bad week. It's okay to have a bad 6 months. What's not okay is to allow it to continue, know it's happening and still let it go. So it's about saying my job and my role and being a coach is about sharing with people to say, put your hand up and say, I need help. Reach out to a coaching program, find a mentor, find somebody that you can share that struggle with or that challenge with so they can show you the other side, so they can get you there. And so if I want other people to do that, I have to do that myself. I have to put my hand up and say, I screwed up. And I have in the past. I'm happy to share that. And I think that's about showing the world that it's okay to not be perfect because perfect doesn't exist. Perfect exists in an instant. Like something will be perfect for literally a millisecond. And then the world changes around it and it's no longer this idea of perfection. And so it's like an avocado, there's an avocado is perfect for like 90 seconds. And if you don't eat it in that 90 seconds, it's either too hard or it's completely overripe. That's kind of like perfection. We can't, it's unattainable. So we have to manage what we have and be okay with that.
Oh, I love that. That's so perfect. So do you have a mantra or a quote that you live by, or a word of the year, or a word of how do you stay motivated? Do you have something on the wall that you look at regularly?
I have lots of things on the wall, actually, and I'm looking at them as I do. I found this very cool sticker when I was in Tallinn, actually. So after Barcelona, the following year, I went to Tallinn and met up with the same people that I'd met in Barcelona. And I found this really cool sticker that says unfamous. And I love it because there's something about it there's something very cool for me about it's not about being famous and being known. It's just about being consistent and being here forever. But I guess the two things that I have is I've got one as a little quote, which I've shared several times before from my father, or a little note that he wrote me on a check stub, or the balance sheet from an old checkbook when we used to have physical checks. Yes, people used to handwrite a check and sign it and put your address on the back. He's wrote me a note from when I was about 22 during university before he passed away. And so that's always with me. And it talks about him being incredibly proud of me and always that I will always succeed because that's what I like to do and that's who I am. So that's kind of always with me. But one I do love, I think for me personally, is really around those two tenets about being wise and free. And they sound a bit flippant, but they're really important to me in terms of, have I shared some wisdom today or have I gained wisdom today? And that's a really important thing about when I work with clients or when I'm learning or whatever I do. And in terms of being free is, am I doing this with kind of full agency over my own self? Am I making the right choices about how I should show up? And am I giving the opportunity for others to do the same? So they're really critical to me. And I think about those every single day because if I'm not doing those two things, then something has to give and something has to change to allow me to get back to that kind of North Star, if you like.
I just love it. So Jenni, what are the things that you would never in a million years stop doing, no matter what happened?
Oh, this is actually really interesting because face-to-face, being in person, I know the world's pivoting and that there'll be a point where, at the moment, even with COVID, finding ways to do face-to-face and connect with people in person. So for me, that's whether it's on Zoom or literally in person. But live, I will never stop doing live coaching and face-to-face group coaching. Many a time in my career, I've thought about moving towards a fully automated platform for a number of my programs because I have got really strong systems and process to support what I do, and I know I could do that. And every time I step towards that path, it just doesn't feel right. I've gone down the path of even almost fully designing a whole course and ready to put it online and went, I can't do it. I don't want somebody to do it without the support. So I think for me, always doing a live engagement, whether it's group coaching one-on-one or a retreat of some form for every single program, I think is critical to me, because I know that's how I learn, and so many other people learn in that way. And I don't want to, rob people of that opportunity.
Isn't that so true? And it's so much about accountability too, when you're actually there with someone live.
Yeah. You're eyeballing them and saying, and then you know when they're not looking at you, when they're like, oh no, I'm totally not going to do that. Whereas they're saying yes, and giving it like, yeah, it's 100% right. And you're looking, going, you're not doing that. And I can call that, and having a business name that's called Elephant in the Room gives me permission to say, that's bollocks. Like, come on, I'm gonna call a little bit of bollocks right now, because I can see that and I can eyeball them. So I find that I can cut through some of that stuff a lot sooner, because we do that live stuff, as you do with your programs.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I feel absolutely I could never just step away and just let something be automated.
No,
permanently. Just those touch points. I also feel like getting to know my clients is so important, because then I can help them better, because I understand them better. So,
but that's you and I with this the similar philosophy, and the fact that it's not the same for everyone. Sure, we have a system and a process, and there's a general framework that every business or every marketing plan or every digital program has. But while we're all the same, we're all also equally different. And so sometimes somebody is able to follow the standard steps and you'll work them through, but there'll be one or two people who will either need to skip ahead or need to find 3 or 4 steps in between the first two, because they are in a different space and they haven't got the same experience. And I think when you fully automate it, you don't know who you're losing along the way. And for us, it's about making sure we can capture that, see it, own it, and share, and make sure they can feel confident and build that resilience that they need, so that they don't leave the program going, well, that was interesting, but what do I do now? I want them to be empowered.
I agree. And I also think adding why you're losing them along the way. I think that's a really important one too. And you can't know the why unless you actually know
who they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you.
So, Jenni, what would you tell other women who are just starting out? What would you like them to know and you wish that you'd known?
We're not all Instagrammers and we don't all look perfect on and that's okay. So I think it goes back to one of the quotes that just come to mind. One of the earlier books I read in my journey of this kind of transformation was Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, which I know has had lots of positive and negative conversations around, but actually has some really fundamental kind of rules and about behaviors. And one of them is don't compare yourself today. Don't compare yourself to who you were yesterday, basically. And I'll write the quote and we'll put it out later. My head's gone a bit crazy right now. But essentially what he's saying is you can't compare yourself to other people, because when you do, all you're doing is taking a snapshot of them in that moment. You have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. You have no idea what else is going on. They're only going to ever present the best version of themselves. And so often as women, we have to do that. I listened to a colleague of mine who said she got completely berated because she turned up without makeup to a podcast or to a webinar like this. And the guys were like, of course you have to wear makeup. Of course you have to have your hair done, because, you're a woman and that's why I want to sit here and watch you with it all perfectly done. I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I do that. I put makeup on and put my hair up and put earrings on because it makes me feel good. It's not about making other people feel good. And so your business, your life, your strategy, the way you show up needs to make you feel good first and be for you, and then consider other people. Because if you're not serving yourself first, you're never going to be able to serve anyone else.
And what a big, wow, we're not even going to be able to discuss that tonight, but what a big topic that is. We should probably save this one for one of our bite-sized conversations.
Actually, let's do that.
About what other people think you should do. I had a friend who lived with us for a short while when she first moved up to Byron, and she got a job at a cafe that's still there, actually, and it's notorious for only employing young, hot things. And, at the time she was in her early 20s. And she came home after her first shift and said, they said that I've got the job after my trial tonight, but I have to wear a shorter skirt and I have to wear red lipstick next time. And we just couldn't believe it. We're like, in what Why should you be told to wear a shorter skirt? Anyway,
are we back at Mad Men days? Is it like, is she also like, leaning over and passing the coffee to people? Like, what?
Extraordinary. So let me just finish off, Jenni, if you will. I know we've got, I don't want to be taking up much more of your time, but let's have another one of these chats soon, because I've got so many things we could chat about. But what I'd love for us to leave everybody tonight with, what's your top tip that you can share about being a woman in business?
It's a really, oh my gosh, that's a massive question. That's a huge question. That's not an easy question. It's going to be a funny response. And I'm going to give you a little anecdote, if I can, to tell you the story. So we're at my friend's house last night. We had a combined Father's Day dinner with their family and ours last night. And we're putting tattoos all over, like, fake tattoos on the body. I have a little, lightning stream here, and a lightning bolt, sorry. And so there was one that was there, and they had, because they're all unicorns. And so I really, for the first, and I love unicorns. I mean, unicorns are fabulous, right? But in business, a unicorn, there's a very specific term for unicorn, and it relates to something about, if you're a venture capitalist or a hedge fund, to be a unicorn, you basically make, I think it's your first $1 billion or something to become a unicorn, and there's a definition around it. And as I was saying to, put this on because it's a little word that says unicorn, I actually was like, I'm going to put it on myself, because I'm actually considering, like, it might be there for a long while, because I love this idea about being a unicorn. And so what I mean by that is, don't think you have to follow every other woman in the world. Don't feel like you have to be like every other woman in the world. You are a unique being in yourself, and the best way you can serve your clients and yourself and build a business that people will want to come to is to be a unicorn. So feel like a unicorn, be a unicorn, and show up as a unicorn every day, and grow a business around an ethos that you're unique and you are not comparable to other people. So don't try to be. And I think that would be my advice, particularly to women because we are in an environment, in a world where we feel like we need to compare ourselves to others. I know I do it. So for me, having unicorn on my wrist there's something about it that says to me, I'm a unicorn, you're a unicorn. And that's why we have these incredible businesses, is because we're willing to stand in that and own that. And, and we're proud of that.
I love that so much. I'm feeling like maybe that will become a permanent tattoo.
I feel like it may, actually. Yeah.
What a fun way of figuring out your permanent tattoo, by
having a
semi-permanent one on first. That's a great idea.
But I would never have imagined it would be a unicorn. But it just, last night, I know there's something about it that feels like, this one feels, the lightning bolt, it's not me. I'm like, I'm not a lightning bolt girl. But, maybe I'm just a unicorn.
I just love that. It is such a wonderful tip. Be a unicorn. It's beautiful. And it conjures up so many thoughts around that as well. Because I want to say, and you can sparkle if you want to too. And sparkle means so many things to so many different ways.
Exactly. Yeah.
So many people. So
pretty much.
Jenni, thank you so much for sharing your time with me tonight. And it's just a privilege to have had this opportunity. I love having you as part of the Positive Passionate Businesswoman Huddle. So thanks again for being with us in that. It's awesome. And we're going to share the best places in the caption of this about how people can connect with you. But why don't you tell us where you most like to hang out and where people can find you?
Mostly I hang out on Instagram or Facebook. So find me at Elephant in the Room AU. At Elephant in the Room AU, which you'll see. You can find me on LinkedIn, type in Jenni Walke. But otherwise, they're the best places to find me. Feel free to email, reach out. I love a chat, clearly. Always happy to try and share some wisdom or borrow some wisdom from others where available. Reach out if you need to. But I love being in this group. You know that. I love the connection that we've made. And we're almost sitting, I think, almost our second year, maybe even getting towards our third. I can't remember. It feels like it's forever that we've known each other, and we always have great conversations, and it's an absolute privilege to be able to chat to you tonight. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So Jenni Walke, Elephant in the Room Consulting. You can find her online and find out all the different ways that you can work with her. Yeah. And of course, you can also find her on Friday mornings, hanging out with me and our bite-sized conversations, webinar and podcast collaboration. So I'm Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media, and I founded Positive Passionate Women in Business, which is a women's meetup group to connect women so that we can give and grow and share more. So that's me. That's Jenni Walke. Thank you so much for being with us. And it was just a treat to spend that time with you. So bye, everyone. And thanks so much, Jenni. See you.
See you later.